Erik Struve Hansen.
Yes.
He's editor-in-chief of DR, which is Danske Radio.
Danish Broadcasting Corporation, the public service TV in Denmark. But I'm not editor-in-chief of it all, because it's like BBC or something. I'm just for the unit doing this and a lot of other series for the younger target at DR, which is between 15 and 39.
Okay. Yeah. I was kind of overselling you.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, do we see?
Yes.
For this Q&A, I don't want to just ask him questions, and we're also trying to get Brian on the line via Skype, who did the first two shows, and but it's kind of difficult. We're going to start with Erik, and at any point, if any of you has any questions, just go ahead, raise your arm, and ask. But I'm going to start by asking, how did this project get on the way? Who came up with the idea, and how hard was it to convince Mr. Gifford and the United States government of it? It's kind of unusual.
Yeah. I came up with the idea because I saw a YouTube clip with the ambassador that he made in the US before coming to Denmark, and I thought it was quite funny and, to be honest, a bit tacky, because it was made in a very, very American kind of way, with a lot of big wide smiles, and the two, his partner Stephen was already introduced in it, and they were canoeing down and talking about how much they love doing that and so on. So I thought, well, this could be fun, but of course at the same time I saw like what we call a big character in Danish TV, which apparently maybe it's an expression we only use in Denmark. I don't know whether you use it here, but that means someone who really works on the screen and is a funny, interesting person and who's giving a lot of himself, and also a man in a job which is quite hard to get hold of what actually is normally, at least in Denmark. I don't know whether it's like that in Germany, but what does an ambassador actually do? I didn't know, and I didn't know the names of the procedures or the ambassadors before him in Denmark, and all of a sudden he came to Denmark and was very different to them. For example, he's extremely open on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and so on. And he's, of course, openly gay, which is also quite unusual. And also actually accepting to do this series. That's the first time in, at least for in American history and Danish history, that it has been done. That you do a documentary about, or a documentary series or reality series or whatever you call it, because I think it's quite hard to actually name the genre of the series, which is something that is quite typical for the TV we do, that we like to mix the content and the genres and so on.
But was it his sole decision? Was he the only one deciding, or did you have
no,
to
it
go
was
through?
Quite a long. Well, actually, he was very on it very fast. But that said, it had to be confirmed and accepted through a lot of other parties. Like, for example, the embassy and the security of the embassy. That was something they were very concerned about themselves, because when you go to the embassy to, for example, get a visa, it's you're not even allowed to bring your iPhone, and we had to bring big cameras and so on, and that was because of security reasons, and that took some time to get that solved, and also the White House had to accept it, and they did, because they thought, well, why not try it? But and they liked it, but at the same time they were also a bit nervous that it was going to be like the Kardashians or the Osbournes or something. But I hope we ended up somewhere in the middle. But of course, comparing to the first shows we saw, it's much more lighter and entertaining sort of way. It's not like we do other stuff also in my unit at Danish Broadcasting Corporation that's more serious, and also some of the other episodes are a bit more serious. It's not all about turning 40 and getting married.
Yeah, we kind of picked the romantic ones,
yes.
the easy ones, because you saw the first show and it's really heavy stuff, so we thought we need to level it out a little.
Yes.
Did you have any doubt about the project at any time? I mean, if somebody would ask me, how do you think a show about a politician, a daily life of a politician who has just a representative job, not a real actual power, that doesn't sound very exciting TV to me at first necessarily. Did you have any doubts that it would work? Because I have to say, it really worked really well. You got prizes, you got great audience response for the show.
Yes, actually it was like the TV channel who bought it from us, which is called DR3, is, as I said, aimed for people between 15 and 39, and they thought, well, we don't know whether we'll get a single viewer on this, because would people be interested in viewing, you know, in viewing what the work of an ambassador is like? But it turned out to be the most viewed show that season, and I guess that's because of him being quite, you know, a big character, as I said, and also it's fun to see. I'm sorry about the first episode we saw. There were no subtitles on. I guess it's definitely my fault, not yours. But it's also funny to see all the Danish, you know, as a Dane at least, it's funny to see how the establishment of Denmark sort of dance around him in a way, because some of the people in it were quite...
Yeah, that was obvious. You don't need subtitles for that.
Okay.
How the...
So it's it turned out to be quite fun to see how he sort of developed, and also he became a sort of star from episode 1 aired until the end. He was quite well known to some Danes before, but it went, you know, he is now a star in Denmark, which is quite strange, because he's, you know, only an ambassador, and we are not used to them being very public and stars and so on. But another thing we of course thought about was whether it was how you balance the series, because it's not a journalistic critic series about the US system, and of course we could do that, and of course not every Dane think Amerika is great all the time, and that was a sort of, you know, balance to not make it, you know, too positive, but yeah, at least in Denmark it turned out quite well. You know, also during the series, some of them are, you know, showing him being a more of a political person, but still in this weird sort of way, mainly representing the country and not meaning too much. But yes, I guess that's...
I've got two questions. Is this TV series sold to other countries?
It's about to be, but it's... yeah, I can't... I'm not allowed to tell, but it's going to be.
Okay. And the second question is about the shooting format. Did you use DSLR cameras or did you use normal video cameras?
It's now I can't remember the actual type of it, but it was it was quite advanced cameras, Yeah, C300. Yeah, and it is mainly shot by one person, a VJ. We call them, like a person who's still handling the camera and doing the journalism on it. Or, yeah.
Are there any plans to follow him for further scenes, follow his political career, back in the US, presidential campaign? I don't know.
We are thinking about what to do now. We are not going to do. Actually, this season is 2 seasons in Denmark. It started off with 6 episodes, and then 1 year later came another 4, and totally it's like 10. And the DR sales team, who has or are about to sell it, it's a sort of, you know, it's a bit boring, but I'm not allowed to tell them so much about it. But they sell it as one series. But we are not going to do more like this, because, you know, his story in Denmark is told now, and it ended up with the marriage and so on. So it would be a bit too much to do more on his life in Denmark as in this sort of format. But we are thinking about, you know, doing a final thing with him in Denmark before he leaves, if we can come up with it, and if he and the TV station think it's a good idea.
Thank you. I'm gonna hand the microphone over now to my colleague Gerhard, who will interview Brian, who's supposedly live on Skype now. You can, Eric, stay here. There might be some questions that are interesting for both of you.
Hi, it's like a soccer game, constantly changing around here. Hi. This is new for us, so it was a little bit technical hiccup. Glad to welcome Brian Knappenberger, whose docu-series Truth and Power we saw before. For you, Brian, is it okay? Sorry, I just jumped to the first name basis.
Yeah, no problem. Can you hear me? Is the sound coming through?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just some questions to you. With We Are Legion and the Internet's Own Boy, you dedicated 2 feature docs to the area of conflict between oppressing power and emerging forms of protest or self-empowerment. And in Truth and Power, you tackle this topic from different angles. How came this project into being? What started it for you?
Well, after the Internet's Own Boy, I was talking with participant media, and they asked me what kind of series I wanted to make, and I said I wanted to make a series about abuses of power and people fighting back against those abuses, and all of the kind of ways in which power is abused in the digital age, and people that are uncovering those abuses, fighting and trying to overturn them, and use technology in interesting ways themselves. So they said great, and so we dove into 10 episodes that are more or less on that same theme. It's both government abuses, but also corporate abuses.
Yeah, we also saw that we saw the malware episode and the citizen journalism episode, which are like different sides of the coin. How did the project get started for you, especially what was the first episode you started to work on, or the first topic that gripped you and said, we can, there's something more behind it?
The very first one was one I don't think you screened, which was an episode about Stingray technology. Stingray is a cell phone tracking technology that governments, law enforcement agencies around the world are starting to use. It's basically a kind of fake cell phone tower. So if your cell phone, which is always trying to connect to a tower, it sends out these pings, it's looking for a friendly tower. Law enforcement now has a device that will pretend to be a friendly tower and tell your cell phone that it's a friendly tower, that it recognizes. But instead of going to that tower, it diverts it all the way to the law enforcement, so your law enforcement can intercept your cell phone technology. So I found a story about a guy who was very much a criminal that had was evading tax and stealing money, but with tax fraud. And but he figured out from prison that this technology was being used, and he was the first one to discover it. And to bring to use the word stingray to identify this technology. So that was the very first story, the story of what he was caught for, and then how he ended up getting out of prison based on illegal surveillance technology of cell phones. And so that was the first one, and then I think malware might have been our second episode. That was quite a wild ride, actually, that episode.
The malware episode?
Yeah.
In which regard?
Well, we started out learning about this company called Hacking Team that was creating this targeted malware. So, we all know what malware is, and the episode talks a little bit about that. But it's that kind of thing. There was actually a big story that 100 people around the world were arrested for using this kind of malware that would take over a camera and take over the microphone of somebody's computer. And they were buying this malware for around 40 euros, around that price. And then we learned that there was this company, this Italian company, that was selling this to oppressive regimes, almost the same stuff that these kids were buying for 40 euros. This company was selling to oppressive regimes around the world for $1 million US kind of price tag. And it seemed pretty irresponsible. So we started looking into that. It was very secretive. But right in the middle of us investigating this and finding these two activists in Morocco that had thought they were being targeted with this malware, the company that we were looking at, called the Hacking Team, that company itself was hacked, and 400 gigabytes of information were dumped. And that is almost never the position you find yourself in as a journalist. In other words, trying to investigate what this company is doing, actually having an interview with them where they said they weren't doing things, they were vetting these regimes, and then suddenly being confronted with all of their internal emails that were contradicting
the
exactly
story wrote itself for you then.
Yeah, that almost never happens as a journalist. I mean, you do an interview with this company, and then they say, no. We know these tools are a big deal. We vet all these countries. We don't sell to anybody terrible. And then suddenly we have these emails where we have invoices and we have direct correspondence, and we know everybody they're talking to. So we could totally call them on their lies.
For me, something interesting at the Drama Series Day, where I saw both Eric's and your series, there was a lot of talk about docu-series being the new thing that Netflix and Amazon Prime, they're hunting for factual series or for docu-series. Does this influence you in any way? And the question is for both of you. And how different is the working on a docu-series format compared to a feature length? I think that, especially in comparing to doing research in preparation, it seems like a much shorter schedule and a much tighter way to work compared with a feature where you can take your time. Maybe, I don't know, Eric, for you. Brian, sorry.
No,
each one of you can start off.
I love both, to be honest. I love feature documentaries, and there's sort of the weekly series appeals to a kind of different part of my personality, and plus there's a lot of, which is that sort of that pace of a weekly series where you're kind of moving a little more quickly. You have a lot of stories, for instance, wouldn't sustain a full documentary, but are still really compelling and that you really want to kind of dig into. So there's that sort of half-hour format is pretty interesting in that regard. I also find myself craving the longer form documentaries quite a bit, though, too. So it's sort of different sides of my personality, but definitely Netflix and Amazon and other people, they're responding to a hunger that people have for compelling real-life stories.
Yeah, for us it's the same. We also work with documentaries and of course series like this. We are not influenced by interest from buyers like Netflix, Amazon, and so on, because we are financed by public service, and that's our aim, you know, to do that. And mainly our stuff is made in Danish and with Danish characters, so a lot of it won't be interesting for people abroad, unfortunately. But so we are a bit, we are not, you know, the interest now is like a lightning hitting. We didn't see it coming, and yeah, so.
Yeah, there was quite some buzz in Berlin surrounding I'm the ambassador, especially from the American side, as far as I got to know. I find it interesting that both of your series tackle very a central topic from very different angles, like this showing on a very ground level intimate look at how ambassador shapes the image of his nation, and how this tool is used to connect to the people. At the same time, I think the Truth and Power shows in a very interesting way how political power interacts on another level with trying to oppress it. So we put them together not just because they were serious both, but because we thought that's a very interesting way of looking at it. For you, Brian, is there a possibility to see, or is there planning to see a second season of Truth and Power? Because some of the topics seem interesting to especially maybe monitor on a long run or a long-term viewing, look at them.
Yeah, we are talking about that really seriously right now, and it looks like we probably will, but I'm not 100% sure yet. But we're really thinking about that in a serious way. What kind of stories we're going to do if we do a second season, and you know, we're trying to do. We want to do some more international stories. The malware episode I thought was really interesting in that there were some real United States government abuses in there too. But you know, we were following activists in Morocco and other places. We want to kind of expand that for our second season if we can, and just continue to find these sorts of abuses and you know, the way people are kind of manipulating the digital age.
One last question, I think, or we'll open it up to the audience. Is there one question left for one of the two producers? Okay, then I'll finish with the last one. How long is Rufus still ambassador in the US? So when we will see him on the political stage, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, he's going to stay there about 1 year more from now, maybe a little bit shorter, but he'll stay a bit longer after the new president. There's one question from the audience, and do you know if Truth and Power is sold to the German audience or to German broadcasting yet?
You know, the effort is certainly underway, and the desire is there.
Okay, hopefully we spiked some interest from the broadcasters here.
Yeah, let us know if you know.
So thanks so much for both of you to show you. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. It's a long day. to allowing us to screen your TV shows, a docu-series, and for taking the time of answering our questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Das war's. Vielen Dank fürs Kommen. Wir wissen es wirklich zu schätzen bei dem Wetter, bei dem Parallelprogramm. Jetzt fängt draußen, glaube ich, Amy an. Man kann gemütlich Open-Air-Kino gucken und was trinken. Die haben auch Cocktails. Vielen Dank, dass ihr da wart und schönen Abend noch. Ciao.